Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. I became a big fan of Elix and Elix 2 in 2022, and I knew that Risen was a much earlier RPG by the same developer with a similar formula, and I was really curious if I would like it even half as much as I loved Elix. I do want to thank the publisher for providing me with a review code, and after 5 hours with the game, I am excited to share my thoughts with you guys. Risen originally released on Xbox 360 and other platforms in 2009, and that's the same year as Batman Arkham Asylum, Dragon Age Origins, and Borderlands, but it doesn't look as good as those, even with the advantages of a PS4, Xbox One port. It looks almost like a PS2 game at times, but with better textures and effects. And the publisher is clear in calling this a port, not a remaster. However, if you've only played the original on Xbox 360 and not PC, this port may feel a little like a very light remaster. As I compared the visuals to the Xbox 360 version, I found that playing it on the Series X, as I'm playing it, even though it's made for Xbox One technically, playing it on the Series X, I found that it had fewer jaggies in the models, much better camera control. In the Xbox 360 version, the camera just zips around super fast. You got to be so gentle with the right stick, and there's no way to really adjust that. So that is the biggest improvement in my mind with this port. And there's also a nice option to zoom out the camera some more so that you can see more of your surroundings, which is helpful as you explore, and I think also minimizes maybe some of the blockiness of the character model that you're playing with. But you can't make visuals and modern polish a priority coming to this game. In addition to dated graphics, it lacks some modern quality of life features that will result, I think, in it being a turn-off to many players. Tutorials are minimal or non-existent. I wasn't even sure for a while how to level up. Menu navigation feels unconventional and hard for me to ingrain in muscle memory. I can't put markers on my map, which makes it hard to follow through on quests. The quest log is not super helpful, and you may find that taking notes or using a guide is just going to be necessary. The biggest criticism I have so far for Risen is summed up in, I think, one word: non-intuitive. This game doesn't put much effort into telling you how to play or what to expect of the gameplay, and most importantly, what mindset will help you get the most out of what it offers. I had the same problem with Elix, which is why it took so long for me to find the right frame of mind to love that game. Elix 1 and 2 aren't known for their polish either. I think you have to be in these games for the unique flavor of gameplay being offered here. I didn't initially understand and appreciate that about Elix, but later, when it clicked for me, I found it to be a style of gameplay that sucked me in like no RPG had in a long time. Why? Because I'm feeling my power grow like few RPGs let me experience. Now, to be clear, I don't feel powerful in Risen, not yet. I didn't feel powerful in Elix until more than 15 to 20 hours in, and at that point I could still get my butt handed to me by some enemies. But in RPGs like Oblivion and Skyrim, you set your difficulty where you want it, and it feels about the same throughout in terms of pushback. Games like Elix, and I assume Risen based on the pedigree and my experience so far, let you feel weak but still progressing. All the while gaining power that you can feel in really satisfying ways when you suddenly realize you might be able to take on that enemy that you had to run from last time. It's a zero to hero, third-person open-world action RPG that starts you out as the nameless survivor of a shipwreck, leaving you on a remote island with people groups you know nothing about, monsters you have little to no hope of fighting, and a primary objective of simply surviving and finding your place among the competing factions. Enemies do a lot of damage early on, and it's easy to be killed in combat, even on easy difficulty. What the game sadly doesn't tell you is that you aren't expected to do much fighting early on. Avoiding combat or cheesing enemies when you can, luring them to NPCs who will do your fighting for you, that is the game early on. It's difficult, but not in a way that has to be overcome with twitch skills and reflexes and a bunch of pattern memorizations for enemy attacks, as much as with just kind of thinking and being clever and kind of feeling like you're outsmarting the game, even though, they clearly are having your outsmarting them in mind. That's part of the design. The environment greatly rewards exploration because of the useful items that you can find, and there are no encumbrance limits. So you're picking up stuff all over the place. Every dialogue-oriented quest, every quote-unquote useless item you pick up feels like one more thing that will give you an edge or a foothold in this alien world you're stranded in. As I'm scraping to survive, every bit of junk I pick up feels like a treasure that I know will play a part in my survival. Combat does involve deliberate waiting for openings and taking note of attack patterns, but there's no stamina system, and victory is more about non-combat systems than, say, compared to a typical Souls-like. The world is dangerous, but it's overcome with thought, exploration, and leveraging skill systems or dialogue options or knowing when to run, just as much as it is about getting good. In fact, I think it's more about those things than quote-unquote getting good. And you can save it virtually any time, so if you remember to save often, there will rarely be any backtracking or punishing repetition. You know, if an enemy's too strong, you can just go around and do something else for a while. And it's a game that's meant to be experimentally explored that way. There are multiple ways to resolve quests, different factions and kind of factions within factions you can side with or against, and while the character animations are extremely wooden and sometimes non-existent, I'm thinking of their eyes in particular, the voice acting is really solid, with flavorful dialogue and personalities that you're running into. It's definitely a world I want to get to know and interact with more, especially because of the characters and the dialogue. It also has moral complexity in the faction system, with two factions that basically force you to join the lesser of two evils. In the opening hours, you can join a group of bandits or be willingly or unwillingly kidnapped and indoctrinated by the militaristic religious order that also trains in the use of magic. That also, I have to say, brings to mind aspects of themes that I look forward to exploring more in Risen. The opening cinematic explains that although humans used to be enslaved by the gods, humanity drove the gods away. In their absence, an ancient power is rising that humans have to discover and contend with, I suppose. Now, having an organized religion be the villain in a fantasy RPG is as recycled and tropey as you can get in the genre, but I find it interesting that the religious order is also the authority on magic and magical training, which is pretty unusual, I think. And while other fantasy RPGs might make organized religion the all-too-obvious black hat villains with an equally obvious force for good that you're meant to side with, Risen presents no clear good faction for you to side with in the opening hours, giving you at most the option to try and keep your head down and not join either faction. That's kind of the best you can do if you want. It's a premise that I think lends itself to requiring moral discernment from the player more than usual, and I appreciate that as an ongoing exercise in my entertainment. In summary, the dated visuals and non-intuitive elements are weak points that I'm putting up with because of the gameplay that I find really enjoyable so far, even though it's clearly a less evolved, a less refined version of what I came to love so much in Elix. Risen is definitely not for everyone. It's a game for, I think, the few who want what it particularly offers and will treasure the differences that may turn other people off. But anyway, if you are counted among those few, I'm very, very happy for you. And those are all my thoughts for now on the Xbox One port of Risen. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.